up a few thousand degrees with a Lava Hot podcast and host Joseph Connell Jr. You'll hear from ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things, from tech startup CEOs and marketing professionals to authors, investors, and sales trainers. This show will be packed with information to help you level up in life or business, taking you from on fire up to lava hot. Get ready to burn this down.
Hello and welcome to the Lava Hot Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Connell. Today I have with me the founder and owner of Burk Creative, Mr. Chris Burk. Just to give you a little bit of background that I've been able to grab from Chris is really, I'll start with where I found him. I found him on an app that everybody's become familiar with over the last 2 years, TikTok, as a content creator who's on a mission to help businesses really just level up their video and leverage video within their social media platforms. I stumbled across him through a couple of different videos that I thought were rather unique. One, he was able to work with a business over 3 days and create a stack of content that they were able to put out and publish onto their social media platforms. And another one was a unique platform that he uses to really expedite and streamline how he produces content. But Chris, I appreciate you joining us and welcome to the show.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me. And you nailed that intro. I love that.
Yeah, thanks. No, I appreciate it. It's hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes I gotta rewind it and go all the way back from the beginning. But no, I'll say I'm really happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks. And I mean, I meant like on me, just saying the way you made me sound so like the way we say it that way sometimes as far as leveraging your social media. You just, when you aren't a part of the business, it's like you work with us every day. It's great.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, and it's one of the reasons why I reached out to you when I started down the rabbit hole, because that's how TikTok is. You see one video that you like of somebody, and then the next thing you know, you're looking at how they edit video, how they set up their camera gear, what camera gear they're using. For me, I go down that rabbit hole. And the more videos I started watching, the more I was like, man, I really got to bring this guy onto the show. To share with you that the whole premise of this show is, my focus is to try to bring things to the table, bring individuals like yourself to the microphone to be able to share things that individuals, whether they're sales professionals, business owners, that they can put inside their business right away and start to see some sort of progress, whether that's a marketing tip, a sales tip, a video tip, whatever it is. I want to try to bring it to the table, and being able to connect with guys like you who are out there doing it, but you're also working with a variety of businesses. And from what I gathered, it's from a broad spectrum of different businesses that you can work with. So I'm anxious to kind of get into it and start diving in and try to get a feel for the first thing I want to know is like how this video thing started for you. Is that your background, or is that something that you just kind of develop skills over time?
So, and this could be a really long story, but the short version is that, as I guess an artist or a creative person, I've kind of done, I even played in bands and did music, but you kind of touch a lot of different things. And so I've made videos, if you will, or films or whatever you want to call them, my whole life. I don't know, ever since I kind of had access to the ability to do so. I grew up with YouTube, if you will, I guess, meaning like I was on it way back 2000, whatever that was, 6, or I don't know, many, ancient years ago. Point of it is, though, I didn't go straight down that road. It's kind of with creative ventures, sometimes you think like, that's only for people that are like the tip of the top, or you got to take the safe route, whatever. And I just kind of, through still sticking with my hobby, if you will, you would find people that would find you, that would pay you to do some work here and there. And then pretty soon it just kind of, there's like always that line drawn in the sand moment where you go, you know what, I think I'm going to jump, I'm going to do it. And that's what happened. My daughter was born, as a matter of fact. That's probably the better way to tell the story. And I realized, you know what, I'm not getting any younger. If I'm going to try something like this, might as well jump off the cliff and do it now. And so I just did. You binge every tutorial, everything about it. You do whatever you can to be like, I'm going to make this work. And here we are today. And it honestly happened a lot. You give yourself like a 10-year runway, and it happens in a couple years, and you start thinking like, okay, this is actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and actually the best decision I ever made, that kind of thing. So I've been doing it for about 5 years under this current brand as a, what I would have said, professional, had no other job. But of course, there's always a little while there where you do odd jobs, side jobs, do drone work, whatever it is you do to get the bills paid, until you figure out what it is you really want to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So now I'm curious. So when did you start the company?
This company, Burk Creative, was started in 2017.
Yep. So I'm curious for, let's say, the first 3 years as we progress into the age of TikTok. I'm kind of curious what you've seen over the last 5 years, like how much the video landscape has changed.
Wow. So it's crazy because even still today, there's still so much opportunity. Um, so 5 years ago, when I realized that, we were still able to get away with just, I don't know, throwing stuff out there, and like the fact that you were producing content at all was still able to get, I think, to kind of fast forward now, we're getting more into an age to where, let me relate it back to YouTube a little bit. YouTube back in 2007, 2008 was like, there was not a lot of people on there. So people that were doing daily vlogs and stuff like that could pretty much get a lot of traction for who was watching anyways, because they're just, people were looking for content. Now there's a ton, like everybody has a polished set on their YouTube. There's well thought out storytelling, all these things. But even then, you can still start brand new today and build a career on YouTube, right? I see apps like TikTok for even right now, like we're going to head that way eventually. But there's still a lot of opportunity. TikTok is one of those apps, and just to pick on one, by the way, where you can still just put out, like, without, I don't want to say like any effort, but low effort in some cases. And honestly, even in some cases, you may put out content with effort, and the content that you just kind of phone in actually ends up performing better somehow. But there's been a lot of opportunity. So the whole 5 years has been kind of that, or realizing that you may have thought 5 years ago, wow, we better get on Facebook right now and get videos created because there's all these brands, or YouTube's already done. But no, even today, 5 years ago or 5 years later, there's still opportunity. People are making millions as content creators on all of these apps. And so I think for business owners, though, it's not as easy always because you're trying to humanize a brand with
Yeah.
content.
Yep.
And there are apps like TikTok, Reels is even still a good place in some cases for certain brands, LinkedIn, to where they can get a lot of organic reach
Yep.
without having to be experts, if you will, on it. So I I don't know if that answers the question, but it's crazy how, even though 5 years is a long time, there's still a ton of opportunity out there.
Yep, absolutely. You just said something that I want to hit on that way, for those listening, they might be able to connect it. When you say humanize a brand, what does that mean exactly?
So not every brand, obviously, right? If you're like a coach, or if you're that is your brand, right? The personal brand can be your brand in some instances, some businesses, even for contractors and stuff, I would say. But if you're a bigger brand, if you get to a certain point where you cross a threshold and it's a company,
Yep.
and you have to, it's so strange because you'll notice even in the big corporations, the Coca-Cola, whatever it is of the world, that their commercials are geared more towards like a feeling, towards lifestyle. They're not talking about like the ingredients and stuff in their brand. But a lot of us, even I'm guilty of this sometimes too, still knowing better, I know better, but you want to talk about the ingredients. We're going to pick on Coke here. And most of the time, it's not really the ingredients that we're buying, right? It's like the feeling you get from it, right? It's the way that you associate that day. And so it's the same for us, throwing it back to myself with content creation. In the end, we're not really selling like pixels and waveforms, is the way I like to say it. We're
Right.
we're not selling, lighting and stuff like that. We're selling the time back to you, is probably the biggest one, because for two reasons. One, video is your 24-hour like salesperson. If you want it to be, if you create it that way, you can just put it up, set it and forget it. It's like, that's why we're talking, right? A piece of
Yeah.
content I created found you.
Yeah.
But it's also saves you time because you can use video as a tool. You
Hmm.
can create videos that help you in your sales process, that qualify people, that talk about, that teach them, that whatever it is, there's walkthroughs, all those different ways you can use it. So in a way, what we're kind of tying it back to the humanized, that whole piece of it is what it gives you the ability to take not just the overall like surface level viewpoint of what a product or a service does,
Yeah.
and kind of helps people understand how it like transforms their lives for like that sounds so cheesy, but it's how this is going to transform your life, how it's going to save you time, how it's going to make you money, how it's going to make you, you know, whatever, insert what your clients or customers get from
Yep.
your business.
Yep. Yeah. You know, because I do a lot with the Grant Cardone team. If you're familiar with Grant
Oh yeah.
Cardone team down there in Florida, I've signed up for several of like their mentor programs and things like that. And the one thing that they said very early on is that people buy from people, they don't buy from brands. You know, you want to really try to step out or within your business, create it so that people are connecting directly with you, which is why, you know, you're not buying, you know, XYZ training platform. You're buying Grant initially and then, you know, pulling from there. But I like that you gave like that full explanation of what it means to humanize your brand. But let me say, you know, one of the videos that I saw is that you'll go into a business. I can't remember how many videos you did at once, but it was like a stack of them. You did it over a course of 3 days. How many videos was that exactly that you did?
So let me caveat this really quickly too.
Sure.
With that video, I had a viral video, if you will, like viral for me, right? Micro viral. And it, we mentioned it was 150. So we walked away from the
Wow.
shoot. It's a 3-day shoot. But again, the caveat here is that there's about a couple of days of planning that goes into that, where we sit down and we do what we call deep dive interviews. I can expand on that. But after the deep dives, we go into the shoot with a huge list of content. And we also, there's two kind of like columns I would say here, and that there's stuff that the client makes us aware of as we do these deep dive interviews, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's stuff we should talk about. But the other side of the other column, if you will, is stuff that we know is proven to work, as far as like we look at content like a funnel, like a
Hmm.
sales funnel, I should say. So, you know, there's content that you can put out there that's going to get a lot of awareness, that's going to appeal to a broader audience, all the way down to that last piece of content, which is what we would call a conversion, where you're like, you're presenting the offer, you're asking for the sale, you're buy now with 20% off, whatever that is for a brand. But
Yep.
um, so yeah, with that particular client, 150 videos is what we got. That's still, and the reason I think the video that went viral that you saw is because we also take those 150, like, I guess one time, what did I say? They might be long form in some cases, and we can break them down into other short form pieces of content, or you can transcribe them, turn them into blogs, email sequences, carousels, just written posts, whatever. So
Yeah.
if you do it right, when you break all this down and repurpose it, in some cases, for some brands, and now it's different for every brand, because if you're trying to post 10 or 20 times a day to TikTok, this is not going to be a year's worth of content. But if you're a
Right.
brand that's posting one every couple of days, or one every other day, and you're trying to push, a little bit more conservatively, I guess I would say, we can end up creating their entire year's worth of content. And so, but also let me add, because I didn't talk about this enough in there, is that we try and create some of the content around the service as well. And I mentioned that for a second, but if there's something that can help you qualify someone, or talks about the next steps, or even just something as simple as a thank you video that after they've completed the service, you can send out. We've done this with like a roofing company before, where, it's just says, hey, thank you so much for your business. We'd love to get feedback, whatever it may be. We want to go in there and knock out every possible thing we can, so that you're not just putting out the awareness, what we would call the social content that is bringing people into your audience, but we can create that content that we would call authority content, that's showing them, wow, you're not just somebody who does video, you're somebody that has this like proven framework or system. And then down to the like conversion style, that's like, hey, right now we only have 5 spots open for clients, we're looking to take more on. If you've been following us, you enjoy our content, hit us up, basically book a call, that kind of thing. So
Yep.
that way, when they go to launch this content we create, I keep hitting my mic, when we go to launch it, they're like not just putting out like one video. Because the problem is if you create something that's amazing and it does go viral, and you're not set up to kind of like handle the response you get from that, and we've learned the hard way, then like, what do you do? All of a sudden you're scrambling to like, okay, what do I do now? I got to keep creating content. So it just kind of, it went from, hey, we'll create you this one brand story, to, no, how can we sit back and make sure we like set you up for like success, and kind of get we call the whole service the video launch stack. And we call it that because it's your platform. It gets you started and kind of gets you launched out there. And then of course, after that, you kind of have to, and I could talk about this all day, so I'm going to just hush right there. But like you would obviously just kind of have to, you'd build that momentum and then have to keep creating content after that, whether you do it on your own or you bring us back out or whatever that may be. But that's kind of the idea behind it.
Yeah. So you just kind of answered something I was going to ask. Is this something that you only provide locally, or is this something where, where are you based out of? You're Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, but no, as a matter of fact, believe it or not, the majority of our clients are out of state. We just include it all in the package and just travel, and um, it's been a lot of fun, and I think there's even some benefit to doing it that way because when we're out there, like there's nothing for us to do other than to be there 100% with the client. So as much as we like our toys and we have our studios that are here local and our friends and people that can help out, um, it can be done anywhere, it's content. So nowadays it's like, at least nowadays, I don't know if that'll change, but some of the stuff that we create, some of the best stuff you create is just being out in the wild, just like you would put on TikTok.
Yeah. So well, let me ask this. Let's say you're an individual that you got a coach or a real estate agent or, somebody that's running their own, local business. What could they do right now if they wanted to just get started on creating video? Is there any like tips, thoughts, or ideas on what they could do just to get things started? Is there any certain type of camera you would recommend, or, where do you think somebody should start right now?
There's so many. So first and foremost is I think you have to kind of sit down and think about, gosh, there's so much to cover. Let's just say you're going to go into it. Well, because like talking about marketing and stuff like that, you got to know what your customer, like who is your ideal customer, stuff like that. But before we get into that, let's just say you kind of have that stuff figured out, and we can dive more deeper into that too. But because there's a difference between I'm going to create a bunch of videos and I'm just going to show up and be consistent, which can work and can pay off, versus I'm going to create content that actually resonates with my audience. It's a whole different monster because in order to resonate with them, you have to be speaking to them, right? It goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the transformation. Like if you're creating content around their transformation versus like not talking about how many trucks you have in the fleet or how many cameras and lights you have, like you're going to resonate a lot more when you start talking about how you're going to make them more money or how you've made your other clients more money or brought more leads or whatever it is you do, right? So, but if you're just starting out with your own, and maybe a coach or a real estate agent could jump on this. I'm going to pick on a real estate agent for a second, because they know, what you talk about on the phone every single day. You know what people are constantly asking you. They're like, hey, what does it mean to be pre-qualified? Or like, what is that? How much do I need to have for, what's the difference between closing cost, all that stuff, right? I would write all that stuff down. Like right now, if you can do anything and you're just nervous and you don't want to touch a camera, that's fine. Right now, start keeping track. And you can even go a little bit further and ask people like, what, like we call it market research, right? But do that. That would be number one. Number two, when it comes to creating content, I would pick a platform. If it's something that you've never done before and you're like overwhelmed with the fact of like trying to be everywhere, I do think you want to make sure you're putting yourself out there in as many apps as possible. Gary Vee, I think, talks about this, not putting, do like an 80-20. Maybe you put 80% into TikTok because it's the hot app right now, but dabble in the other ones so that if TikTok goes down tomorrow, you're not out. But the point of it is that for me, I'm even doing this with my own personal brand right now. I could put content on all the platforms and probably have some traction on LinkedIn, but TikTok is so awesome. It's bringing me leads. I almost don't need to be on the other platforms. So I would say that helps a lot when you're getting started, to just say, okay, for now, let me just get, my training wheels with TikTok. And then it's all about consistency on that app, for instance. So that's kind of your next step, is to do a little bit of research. And I could probably just leave it there, but if, it's number three, I guess you would see of tips here would be, go on there, find other people that you either like or that are in your industry, ideally in your industry, so you can see kind of what they're doing. Go look at their most watched, liked videos. I'm not telling you to copy them. I'm just saying, like, go see what they're doing that works for them, and really don't focus so much on like he said tips, or just look at like their body language. Think about like how they're engaging with the people that comment. Think about all the things you can to see like, why is this person performing well? And you don't have to limit yourself to real estate agents. If you're a real estate agent, you can look at roofers and other people and see what are they doing, because you may get an idea from like a time lapse video that the roofer did and say, oh, I can do something like that, and start putting together some, like, I'm stealing this idea a little bit from JT Barnett, if you're familiar with him. If you're not, and you're watching this and you're on TikTok and that's your interest, go follow JT Barnett. This guy is amazing when it comes to TikTok tips and growing. But he basically put together a 30-day challenge, and in it he said what you should do is at least pick 5 categories and say like one is a day in the life. And if you're
Yeah.
not familiar with that, you can go look it up. But when you have these 5 categories, then when you go to create content for that day, you can just like look at your 5 categories and be like, okay, you know what? I have a lot of meetings today, but I could do a day in the life. And so I'll just go ahead and shoot my content for that throughout the day. And then when I come home later, I can edit them really quick and post them. So 3 is
Very
a
cool.
big one. But yeah, it's basically like trying to do as much research as you can, figuring out what you can do, and being consistent rather than worrying about being perfectionist, rather than worrying about what camera to use or lighting or any of that stuff. All that stuff's important, but you'll go a lot further if you actually posted one video a day for 30 days and stuck to it than if you worried about trying to be the best
Right.
video creator in your niche.
Yep. Yeah. When I was first starting this podcast, there was another individual that I reached out to who's local to my market, has a podcast that's doing really well in the short period of time. And he gave me 15 minutes, 20 minutes to kind of chat with him on getting everything launched. And basically what he said to me is, I'm more so looking for quantity over perfection. Like I want to be consistent. I want to get into the marketplace. I want to be able to provide as much value as quickly as possible. I'm not going to overlook whether or not, the camera gear is the perfect gear and all that jazz. I just want to get people interviewed and I want to get it out to the people. But, to what you're saying, what I like about what you do is for individuals that want to do maybe a better quality video, if you will, you'll come in, you'll help them come up with the planning, the preparation, the good camera gear, the editing, everything that goes into making a solid stack of content for them. And you give them a product that then they can start pushing out across whatever platform they choose to. But
Yeah, 100%. And I would add to that too, that something that we had to put on our marketing hats about halfway through the last couple of years, because we do want to make it look good because it can help you set apart, especially if you have that luxury, right? Like if it's something that it motivates having better camera work. But a lot of like when we do those deep dive interviews, we figured out most people don't understand their customer as much as they think they do. And so just having that clarity around, oh, okay, I didn't realize I should be touching on these subjects, or in some cases, we just worked with a guy in Boston. His name is Mike. I don't know if I should be promoting his stuff on the show. I don't want to do that on your show, but
all good.
Mike, but I don't mind shouting out his name. He's not going to mind that I talked about him. And he will say when we were creating content, sometimes he'll be like, you think people would be, and I'm like, yeah, dude, especially me, who is not necessarily your customer. If it's interesting to me, then yeah, that's good content. Because nowadays, especially with a business, like if you're an influencer, you're going to go viral a lot more often, right? And a lot more people, we can laugh at comedians all day, whether I'm into marketing or fishing or whatever. But when you're a very specific business, yeah, I mean, you got to find your people where they're at. You got to meet them where they are in their journey. They may understand Facebook ads a little bit already, and that's what you sell. But you may have some data set or some targeting, some way to do targeting better that's going to save them money, cost per click or something like that. Talking about that may sound boring out loud, but when that person who does this for a living is scrolling through, and they are probably there just to eat potato chips and laugh, but they're going to stop and go, oh, I didn't know that. I never thought about this. Like, you're going to get a message or a comment or at least something that's going to have them, want to follow more and learn more from you. That's how these people turn into customers, right? So we're able to do that in addition to the high quality camera work, as well as kind of be that sound. And really, it's not rocket science all the time. Sometimes it's just being a sounding board for someone to sit there and be like, you realize what you just said is gold, right? Like that needs to be on camera. That's a topic. Go talk about that, right? So that's really huge. And I think anybody can do that and do it for each other. Like going back to a beginner content creator, I have to say, for my own journey on TikTok, I'm like at 12 and a half thousand followers or something. So I'm not a huge creator, but a milestone was 10,000 for me. And this is for my own personal brand.
Sure.
I wanted to get to 10,000, and I remember being at like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was. And I was creating content consistently. And that's why I say that. What you need to take away is that the reason why that was powerful is because as you create consistently daily, you start coming up with ideas more rapidly as time goes on. Day one, you think you sound like an idiot, but day 30, you start going like, and you just start running with it, right?
Yep.
Well, I stopped because of a client project and it got to a point I felt bad because I had all these videos that were doing well, and I'm like, man, I really got to get on. I haven't created content in like 3 days. Well, my last like 3,000 followers to get over 10K happened when I wasn't even posting at all. So it kind of like showed me that there's a lot of value in everything you create, and it will continue to be pushed out there and over again, but to also not get so caught up in it like being perfect, or that you gotta, because like sometimes these lessons come that you realize, wow, I guess TikTok's algorithm allows you to continue to grow even if you're not posting consistently. So it kind of showed me that in order to get there, though, I had to be posting consistently. So it's weird. I feel like I'm maybe trailing off a little bit here, but just to kind of end,
Mhm.
it really came down to me going through and learning the different ways that you could create content, to where I realized what I did and didn't want to do, and then I could kind of take my foot off the gas a little bit, and now I can kind of coast if I want to, or I can ramp it back up again. But it allows you then to really double down on like, what is it that I want to be, what do I want to be known for? Like, what I want people to be engaging with my content, because people will tell you, and I hopefully can help save some pain here. There's a way to go viral for trends or whatever it is. That's great. But if you don't want to continue to create trends, then maybe you might want to be careful with doing that kind of stuff. So it might take you longer to grow, but in the end, you're going to be a lot happier when your people follow you for what your business is, versus people follow you because you have a nice body, or because you have a funny way of, or you do trends or whatever it is that people do that go
Yeah.
viral for. So yeah, I
Yep.
hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Hold on.
that's the thing that I've loved about the TikTok landscape as a person that's consuming it, also a person that's in marketing, just being able to watch the different variations of how people do videos. Like, one day I'll watch a real estate agent who is just showcasing, hey, this is what it looks like to have a $6 million house in Miami or whatever. And they just do the walkthrough, and you want to see it, which equally is good for them, because while not every person that saw that video can qualify for that type of house, somebody qualifies for that type of house that is probably within, that viewership, which is why, you'll see these real estate agents that seem to be fairly new real estate agents, and they're just exploding with sales, with opportunities, while individuals or veterans that might have been around for the last 2 decades who are sleeping on this type of application, just thinking, oh, it's just trendy, or, that's not for my industry or what have you. And they're getting looked over by rookies who literally just got their real estate license. It's the craziest thing.
I want to just something you said there that came back to the beginning when we talked about people buy from people. You're marketing to people. And a lot of times, even like the business I just worked with in Boston, he's like, typically his client is other businesses. Like, he's a B2B. And he was like, yeah, but I mean, are my people even on there? And it's like, yeah, they are, because the marketing director at the company that you want to work with is on TikTok. They may be on there as a personal account, but just back to what you were just saying, watching that $6 million house, maybe I don't qualify for it. But whenever somebody who is in my circle does or brings it up or something, you immediately think back to the last person you saw, and you go, oh, you know what? If you're looking for a realtor and you're in California, I just saw this dude on TikTok. You need to go check him out, right? So
Yeah.
it's that's why you need to be personable, or why you need to appeal to humans, because we're going to tell our boss if we don't, maybe I don't own my own business, but I'll tell my friend who does,
Yeah.
So
Well, and to that, and I'll say the girl that I now follow, I've been following her for about a year, that, did the one video that I'm talking about specifically. They did, a nice walkthrough of a $6 million house. I don't know if it was Miami, but it was like right in that area. Coincidentally enough, there was a time where I was looking for a house down there. Just because I can't afford a $6 million house doesn't mean that this particular agent can't handle, a $300,000, $400,000 property. She absolutely would take that opportunity. If somebody sends her a message and says, hey, I'm actually looking for a house in that market. I mean, at the end of the day, I might not be looking for that $6 million house, but now, without knowing what realtor I would ever call, because, what are you going to do? You could go to Google, you could look for a realtor, or you can now connect with the person that you now feel like you have maybe not a full connection with, but you've been able to learn a little bit about them, how they do business, how they show listings, everything that goes into the planning and preparation of their videos and the human side of that individual.
Yeah, 100%. And that's part of my favorite part about social media is that we get to know you as a person, and it's really important. And when we create content ourselves, even for myself, I think it's important to make sure you're doing some of that. Like, it's good to talk about what oh, should I wait for a second? Sorry. I want to figure out how to cut this.
Sorry about that. Let's take
No, no
that one
worries.
from the top. I'll edit
Yeah,
that
no.
part out.
So I think that I don't remember what we were talking about.
Real estate agent, humanizing.
Oh,
Yeah.
So yeah, so kind of adding to that, you need to, when you're creating content for yourself, it's important to kind of think about that as well. That it's not that, I think, on the surface, sometimes people hear that as like, I don't necessarily want to show people my living room or my children or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that sometimes in the office, you may be laughing with the other coworkers. That's okay to show. It's okay to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes. And even if you're brave enough to do it, there was a guy, this is a random reference, that a client of mine, that he makes hand cleaner, industrial hand cleaner. Sounds crazy, but it's like, if you've ever worked on cars or ever done anything, there's like the Fast Orange or Gojo or all these different hand clean. Anyways, he makes like it's a mom and pop version of it. And it's amazing. He's all over the country. You probably never heard of him unless you work in some of these higher end, like, because that's the thing, when you're paying more for hand cleaner, you're going to be working on like giant electrical motors or ship, like in a shipyard. I don't know. It's not car mechanics that are in like a shop on the corner necessarily, although he has those for clients too. Point of it is, he had a huge spill in the warehouse one day, just soap everywhere. And I was there, just happened to be there to shoot content for something else, but I'm like, this is great. This would be great that you guys just own it and just laugh at it and be like, this is another day, because the rest of us we're not gonna watch it and go, oh, these guys are incompetent, I'll never buy their product. No,
Right.
be like, wow, these guys are human just like me. Like, oh, that's rough. I know. I remember one time when something similar happened to me, and it makes me feel more connected to you as a person. So that's honestly, as an evangelist, if you want to talk about that with content creation, I haven't talked about it a lot, but it's kind of one of those things I'm realizing that TikTok has made me realize it myself, that I like almost want to like grab people and be like, you need to like show that. You need to show as much as you can about the personal side, quote unquote, again, of the business, because that's what really, like, going back to the realtor, I know you know your stuff about real estate. As soon as I see the post that makes me connect with you as a human, though, I'm like, this is my people. And that makes me want to work with you. In some cases, maybe not everybody's like this, but for me, it makes me like wish I had a reason to work with you if I didn't. It makes me start finding ways to be like, I don't know, this coach is pretty cool. Like, I wasn't thinking about hiring a coach, but maybe I should just set up a one-to-one with them and see what they're about, because you like them so much. You just want to be like connected, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's funny when you talk about it like that, almost like behind the scenes, like the suds everywhere and all that jazz. We should have anticipated this, that people want to see that behind the scenes. It made me think of a show, Dirty Jobs, with Mike Rowe, where the whole show for years and years, it was just about him going and actually doing the jobs, these seemingly, the type of jobs that nobody really ever looks at. They're not glamorous or sexy. It's not, doing media or anything like that. It's pumping septic toilets and portal potties and all that jazz, but people were entertained by it. They wanted to see the behind the scenes of him going in and doing the dirty jobs. But to that, I mean, that's how it is. People do want to see the behind the scenes. I've seen videos where an individual, his first video that will blow up will be him cold calling to buy houses, doing like real estate wholesaling, and it will be him having almost like a semi confrontation with that homeowner on why he's even soliciting them. But it's so funny because there is a lot of that behind the scenes that gets overlooked. In the real estate space, it might be you're making prospecting calls to try to get a new listing, and you're just recording that process. But I did want to ask, because I'm always looking for, a creative edge. One of the first videos I saw that you did, you were talking about the computer-based application Descript, which I have fell in love with. I haven't fully figured out how to utilize every aspect of it, but I was hoping you could kind of touch on that a little bit. It looks like something you use within your own content creation process. So I was hoping you could hit on that a little bit. And I think you have like a link or something on TikTok for people to be able to go to as well. But I
Yeah.
wanted you to hit on that briefly if you could.
Yeah. So just, and I don't know if I'm saying it right anymore, by the way. I say Descript like you just said it, and I saw a video on another creator call it Descript, whatever it is, Descript.
Yeah.
It's a it did start as a podcasting app, if I'm saying that correctly. So don't cancel me if I'm not. But the basically the software takes audio and or video and transcribes it right on the surface. That's kind of what you see. So when we started using it as a video production company, we would put our videos in there and use it to transcribe, but really quickly realized you could edit with the text, which is kind of like mind-blowing. And I know, like, if you didn't
Yes.
quite catch what I was saying there, you could essentially put a video in there like the one we're recording right now, and it will transcribe every word we've said, and it might miss a word or two. You can fix them, but for the most part it's pretty good. Well, but if you go in and say you're creating content for yourself, and this is going back to the video, and you guys can check it out on my TikTok, but that's why I think the video I had go viral did, is because I said, rather than just saying, hey, Descript is awesome, let me show you why, right? So you can record your video and you can do like a take, and if it's, you jumble your way through it, you can just immediately just go ahead and do the next one, right? Like you would do in most video content creation. But when you go to edit it later, you can essentially just copy the text that you don't want and hit delete, and now the video is edited. So it was kind of, that's why we picked it up, right?
Yeah.
That alone was awesome, and we were using it because if you are a small content creator, then you're able to just export the video straight from Descript, and you can add like a couple of things to it. You can put another like a image or like a label, or I mean, you could put like stuff to where it is quote unquote video editing on the screen, add a song or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But from a video professional standpoint, Descript allows you to export to your editor. So if you're using like Premiere Pro or Final Cut, so what that does, and hopefully you can see the gravity of this, is that you put it into Descript, and when you export it, it exports a timeline for you. So you're still using like the original quality video file to edit, but it's already chopped up for you in Descript. Well, you might just be thinking like, I can do that pretty quick in my editor. Sure. For whatever reason, it was faster for me. It was something that being able to edit with the text
Yeah.
was like
Hey,
just amazing.
here's where I'll say, for me being a novice, meaning I have Adobe Premiere, I know how to open it. That's about the extent of it. That's about all I know how to do, is I know how to open it. Like even just, like I've tried to edit one of my podcast episodes before where I put like an intro at the front. I think the most I was able to do was change out like the beginning audio on one. So an extreme novice. And I'm not one who would really want to sit there and watch a bunch of videos on how to do exactly what I like to do, which is why, I like the studio I go to, because the guys, they film it, they edit it, they do everything. But in this process of being able to just film some video and be able to drop it into Descript, it was like magic for me to be able to just copy the part that I don't want, hit delete, and now my video's edited, just chopped out the part that I, where I screwed up. It was like, it's instant. It was such a fast process for me. I was like, wow, even I can't screw that up because it's
So
easy
can
to
I
identify
add?
what part you don't want.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And can I add, we even going forward, there's two things I want to add. One, you can say the whole thing. Say you have your intro, do the whole thing. Maybe you come back and you're like, that intro could be better. You can just hit record again and just record the intro, copy and paste that text back up to the beginning and rearrange it, right? That might have been like pretty self-explanatory to a lot of people, not me. I just was like, oh wow. So you can just keep running it as long as you want. And it you would think what would be the difference? I don't know. There just is. When you can do it in text, it's just so much faster. So that being said, from a video production company, we started plugging, like we're using professional cameras, multiple cameras, even in some cases with
Mm-hmm.
professional audio. We would run that signal into our laptop and open up Descript and record it live. So you would still be able to record to the camera itself and have the raw high res version, whatever, if you needed it. But for some of these faster pieces of content, like going from beginning to the end, we would tell the client, okay, we're rolling. It's transcribing it as we're recording it, basically. When we're done, you have it right there in Descript waiting to go. You can pretty much, like me as a director, can just kind of delete some of the fluff of me saying rolling and at the end being like, why don't we run that hook one more time and just put it on there. And then because it's cloud based, which I didn't mention yet, but it's cloud based, it automatically starts sending these files up. My editing team can immediately start, like, they can get access to it on their end. They could be in a completely different state, pull it up, it says here's the new recording. They can start like getting it ready and export it and then take it and run from there. So we could be on set, and we just barely started doing this, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the last two clients, but it became basically, it went from something that was, hey, we'll take the finished video files, put them in, edit, export, to it's with us right there on set now as we're doing it, because it gives us, even if we're going to use the raw files on the camera, it gives me a like view of like what we talked about and what we said, and I can have like a transcription right there. And I don't know why, it just helps so much more. But then the editors can start chopping it up, and like it makes post-production go a lot faster. So our turnaround now for our final videos for our client is even faster. And even in some cases, if we tell a story, they were like, dude, that's gold. You can like turn around almost and be like, y'all go ahead and like cut that one. We're gonna like post that one right now, right? And we can just send it out. And we haven't even touched on all the features that are within Descript, because there's a lot of other things you can do to like clean up the sound or add captions on screen, all that stuff. But just that alone was like,
yeah. And the fact that you can record right into it and see it all just kind of laying out there, money.
Yeah, dude, it's total game changer.
Yep. So as we start to round to the end of the episode, I think I hit on the fact that you don't work with any specific type of company, correct? You'll work with kind of a mix. I wanted to get a feel for that. It's not any specific genre. I know we hit a little bit on roofing, a hand cleaner. So it sounds like there's like this broad spectrum that you guys can come up with. The initial planning, as long as you do that initial like onboarding planning process with them, you can come up with content ideas with them, no matter what type of business, correct?
Yes, 100%. We have done a little bit of, I wouldn't say everything, but when it comes to, because we've done a lot of home service, we've done roofing, HVAC. But yes, even the company in Boston that's why I brought up targeting and stuff like that. He sells data is basically the like short way to say it, and so, I mean, all the way to a realtor. We've done a realtor before, and it's really anybody that's looking for a way to not just post a lot of content, because everybody knows that's kind of the game right now, is getting the word out there, making sure that you're capitalizing on all of this opportunity that we still have, all this organic reach that these apps have. But also, the main thing that we're trying to provide on top of that, because it's really easy for us to create a lot of content. A lot of people can do that. I don't want to say that it's easy, but I feel like that's pretty easy to do. If you just hit the ground running and just really work, you're going to get it. But trying to be more targeted in the sense that we get content out there that is actually going to stop someone's scroll and make them, I don't know, at least think, you know what I mean? It doesn't always have to result in a conversion or a sale. The game with content can be a long game. So you want to make sure that you're at least putting yourself out there. You basically, it's no like trust, right? You're making people aware of who you are and your business and what you sell. You're getting them to like you, to trust you, and then they're more likely then to, I kind of butchered that, but you know what I mean? Once they are aware of you and they like you, they begin to trust you, they're more likely to become a customer. And if we do it with content, like you could blast ads and you could probably get a funnel going and get a lot of sales, and that's great. But if you show up a lot with content, you can start to build like fans, you know what I mean? Which means we're going to have like customers for life rather than just a one-off sale. And that to us is, I feel like that's not only going to be good for our clients, which makes them happy, but that's better for our own business as well, because you want more of it. You get to where you're like, wow, we did make a lot of money, but these people love us. They want that one video. They want more of our silly videos, or they want more of this podcast, or whatever it may be. So it's like, okay, cool. Now we can really dig in.
Yep. One thing that I was curious if you've run into this, where you might go and start the process with a business and then say, well, the individuals that see this video, they might be from all over the country. Will that matter? Let's say they have 10,000 people that view a video, but they're from all over the country. does anybody ever get pushback that, well, that's not local to my market, so even if I have a fan across the country, it doesn't really matter because I'm in this local market and I only do business here?
There is some concern, especially if it's out of the country, because like a lot of people, especially with the realtor, that is the thing. He wants to dominate the market,
Yep.
but I don't want to be, necessarily, if it's 50,000 views, but 40,000 of them are from the Philippines, that doesn't really help me, right? Like
Yep.
I get it. But we that's kind of, we can create content and it stops a little bit there. I know enough about ads and we do offer some services around that, kind of like to help you with that. But
Yep.
when it comes to targeting afterwards, that's really where that play comes in. So we just make sure with anything, let me say this too, I can create you a year's worth of content, but I still think that there's going to be opportunities that come up 6 months down the road where you're going to need to capitalize on that. So whether that means hiring someone to do the video or you just learn to do it yourself. So when we're on set with you, I'm going to create TikToks with you. It may not be a ton, but I want to start getting you used to, and whatever that may be. I could ramble about this all day, but even if it's just like, let me set up, like you have a really nice setup here. If our client is like, I'm completely camera like illiterate, can you just set me up an office like this so that I can just come in, hit record, and do my own thing, and then maybe send it to an editor or send it, whatever it may be. We don't want to just create a year's worth of content. We want to make sure you're set up to be able to continue with that, right? And so,
Yeah.
because there's like, with TikTok and stuff like that, there's going to be a moment when you're on a subway and you can't get a videographer out there. You just have to do it. But back to targeting the right audience, that coming into ads and stuff like that, we want to think about that. So when we create that funnel of content, and you can do this stuff for yourself too, it's just thinking about like I need to make sure I'm putting this content in the right place and I'm appealing to those people that are in my area. But there's nothing wrong, even with the realtor, with having, people all over the country engage with your content because they're going to help get it out there. Meaning that their boost to the algorithm will get it in front of more people to where you're more likely to see the people in your area. And
Yep.
there's still benefit so we're just trying to make sure we're transparent about everything with that. But I still think even if you have 1 million followers on TikTok, like
Yep.
that's still going to bring you business.
So to piggyback on what you just said, the gentleman that I said I met with before I launched my podcast, he gave me some pointers. He's in the mortgage lending business. I'm going to plug him real quick. His name is Mike Sirocco. He has the What Are You Made Of podcast. I recommend everybody go check out his podcast. He was a guest on my show at one point, but I remember before he started the podcast, he had said something where he used to go into the local market and he would do training for like real estate agents on how to like maximize your social media presence. And he said that, I remember him saying this in a video that he did on Facebook, that he started thinking bigger. So he started to try, it's why he started the podcast, was to try to reach people all over the country. And he said, the one thing that I realized is if I can get people to know me across the country, right here in my market would be a piece of cake. Meaning if I can get people talking about me in California or, New Mexico or Colorado, wherever it is, if people are talking about me all over the country, right here is going to be no problem, because people are going to eventually start seeing, oh, holy cow, like he's got this presence that's going all over the place. I would imagine if you're a real estate agent and you're in, a small town in Wisconsin and you have a TikTok platform that's blowing up all over the country and you're getting, 10,000 views, 100,000 views, 1,000,000 views for a video that you did about living, let's say right near the Green Bay Stadium. If you're getting that attraction from people all over the country, people in your local market and be like, oh, there's a guy in my local neighborhood that, just had that TikTok blow up or what have you. I believe that. And I think to what you were saying, absolutely. I think that if you can get known, across the country, you're definitely going to get known locally, and it will happen organically.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that too, I would add that when you have a presence online, that's another reason why content's so important. Right now, there's organic reach and can bring leads. Eventually, it'll just be making sure you're legit as well, or only, right? So meaning that if you are a realtor and you put out a postcard or you put out a billboard or you just are at an open house, when they go to find you online, when they go to Google you, the places you're going to pop up because you have a presence on all these platforms, when they Google you and then they go and they watch these videos, yeah, especially if you've got a video that went viral with your local like mascot, like you were just saying with sports or something like that, immediately changes the game. Because you may not even be talking about real estate, but they're going to be like, dude, this guy is like, he's like somebody. Like, this is not just, and you don't know that. You may pass them in a mall and they may just say, oh, you need a realtor? Let me hand you a card. And you just think, oh, who's this guy? And then the content speaks for itself, right? It's your, like I said, it's your 24-hour salesman in a lot of cases, because then if they do binge, they start to see some of the other things you do. When you do talk about helping people, or what is pre-qualification, or what do I need to have for down payment costs, all of a sudden you walk away with like, dude, this guy is amazing. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like you just want to get out there and engage with other people. And who knows, you may have a broker across the country that maybe you're not planning on moving. You may have a family, maybe just want to apply, but maybe you are a single person that's like, I just had this brokerage in whatever state say, we want you to come work for us. We'll pay you blah, 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 whatever. And I like changed my whole life. You never know what's going to happen when you start meeting people across the globe,
Yep, absolutely. Well, Chris, I appreciate you coming on the show. Before we wrap this thing up, for anybody that's listening to this show, I definitely want to encourage you to go check out Chris. It's Chris Burk on TikTok, correct?
It's actually got my middle initial, and I need to fix that, but it's Chris, the letter R, and Burk. But yeah, if you just search Chris Burk on TikTok, I'll come up.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely go check out his videos. If you're looking for even initially just some ideas on how to get started, I definitely recommend the video on Descript. He does, a tutorial on, a very brief tutorial on how to use, I think it's maybe a 3-minute long video on how to use that application. But for anybody who, is trying to connect with you, if, they see this episode and they're thinking, hey, you know what, I want to find out a little bit more on the consultant side, or just hiring them in general. Where would you like for them to go for that?
So really, you can, if anywhere you find me, you can DM me, message me. So that always works. But my website is Burk Creative. My last name, and it's no E. People always put an E on Burk, but Burk, BURK, creative.co.co. The .com was taken. But we also have, if you want to learn a little bit more about like the launch stack, we have the URL for videolaunchstack.com. You can go check it out. I actually have it. There's a team of us that work. And so you're going to see my partner, Kevin, in the video. He's kind of the face of our brand. But anyways, so there's multiple places to find us out there, but TikTok is my jam right now. So if anything, if you just go, even just like support each other, like I'll support you back there. That's kind of it's fun right now still. So let's help each other out there.
Yes, sir. Cool. Well, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me and come on the show. I think you packed it with a ton of freaking value. So I'm really looking forward to getting this thing all edited and pushed out into the marketplace. But again, thank you for coming on the show, and I hope we can connect here in the future.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Lava Hot Podcast with Joseph Connell Jr. Do you want to level up your business in 2022? Then visit us at golavahot.com for a free marketing analysis.